as I said, my name is Jennifer Cahill. My company is called Fireforge by Jennifer Cahill, and I'm a freehand wood burning artist. So freehand, I constantly tell people that it is freehand because a lot of times when you think of wood burning, you think of tracing or putting a transfer of an image onto the wood, and you pull it off and you have the lines on the wood, and then you burn following the lines and then you shade in. I never do that, so there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just one of those kind of people that don't like to follow the lines and stay within the lines. So I do whatever I feel like doing. So a lot of times I'll have the wood and I will let the wood speak to me. And I know that sounds super crazy, but what I do is I look at the grain for a while and I figure out what I want to do with it. Wood burning's been around since 1700s. But not many people do it anymore, and the people that do it tend to do it the more traditional way, as putting a transferring image on or drawing the image on first with pencil and then burning it. As I said, nothing wrong with that. But for me, I feel like my heart and soul go into each piece because it is all freehand. So what I do is I go onto the wood with my burner, just like a paintbrush. I've been doing it for 2.5 years now only. It was a talent that I didn't realize I had. I used to work in Toronto with adults with developmental disabilities, and then I went and became a stay-at-home mom. So one day when we were redoing our kitchen cabinets, my husband was making the cabinet doors, and I didn't want regular cabinet doors, so I went out to Canadian Tire and I bought my Mastercraft burner, which is right here, for $30. Most people, I'm sure you guys are familiar with these. They have a twist-off end. It comes off. It hasn't been twisted off in a while because I haven't used it in a while. And then you would twist it back on with a different tip. Now this would take about 5 minutes to heat up. That might be an exaggeration, but it is a very long time to heat up. So what I learned with freehand is I learned on this originally. But being a mother, a lot of times I would have to stop burning to tend to my kids. And it wouldn't be safe for me to leave it on. So I'd have to unplug it and go help my kids out, come back, plug it back in, and restart what I was doing. It would take a while. So what I did from that experience is I learned to use the same tip all the time. And I've been to shows before where they have Lee Valley and all different kinds of stores there that sell different burning tips. And they when I told them that I use the same tip, they weren't very happy with me because they wanted to use a different tip all the time. Just from my experience, from what I've learned, is I use the same tip. Now, my husband went ahead and for Mother's Day bought me my razor tip because he knew I wouldn't do it for myself. And it's this one here. It's a fantastic burner. Has heat control on it, and you can have 2 different pens on it, and you just unplug it and plug the other pen on that you want. So which is awesome. So as I said, I've been to burning for 2.5 years. In those 2 years, I've been able to win the open class for the Quinte County Woodcarvers Association. Last year, I was in the open class for burning, and I won that category. That piece is actually currently in the Northumberland Art Gallery in Port Hope, along with some of my other pieces. They also dedicated a show for me, so all of my pieces were in the gallery for a month long back in August, so which was fantastic. And the Burlington Art Gallery currently have my pieces as well. So it's been pretty fast 2.5 years, and it just keeps growing and growing. So I'm going to be going to another competition in February, and so I plan on doing a competition each year. So I can keep saying that I'm an award winner. So these are examples of my work here. So this is one of the portraits that I do. This is actually a sunflower for my garden. And so what I did here is I took a picture of it with my phone, and all I do is I reference back to the picture. So as I'm burning, I sit and I look at the picture back and forth, just like a painter would or a pencil artist would look back at the picture. I don't start with any pencil. The only pencil that I would use is if I was doing a person's portrait or an animal portrait, and I would just, with a point, I would just figure out where the eyes and the nose are, just for proportions. This is a piece that I actually did at the last demo. I started it there while everyone was watching, and I just saw in the grain I wanted to do her for a while. And if you come up close, you'll be able to see there's a lot of different hidden things in there. Oh, I'm sorry. So many cameras. This camera. And this is a bowl that's made from a Port Hope maple tree. It was 150 years old. It had to come down. All the wood that I use for my turned objects are all from rescued wood, so none of it's new wood. I like to give the wood a new life. Its life is ended as a tree, but a continued life as an art piece later on. It's sealed with a post-catalytic lacquer, so once it's sealed, it's completely food safe and very, very durable. I make goblets and so on, and those goblets have been dropped on metal or cement floors, and they are completely fine. So they've been tested. So a lot of my clients, they're very surprised at the goblets that I make because they're very thin, and they're what we call it the crystal of wood. But they have been dropped, so they have been tested for their durability. And this is my latest piece here. But the surprise about this piece is it's actually not just a rocking horse. It actually has a piece in the tail there for the dragonfly to go on. The dragonfly has been made so the tail is bendable, and there's a sunken in a bolt in there to make it magnetic. And actually, just through testing here, some of the screws that are in here, they'll stick to there as well. Yes.
Congratulations on your 2.5 years.
Thank you. Something I didn't know I could do.
And your work, from what we see here, is exceptionally beautiful.
Thank you.
But I'm just wondering, and maybe I missed it, you said, did you have any background in art and design?
No.
Oh, you just went at this?
Yes.
Wow.
So I've always been creative my whole life. I made my own toys. I doodled. I made my own Halloween costumes. As soon as I was old enough to do, because before that my mother did them. So it was just, a kid being a kid. I went to university. I have a bachelor's in family and social relations. So as I said, I used to work in Toronto teaching adults with developmental disabilities, which you use your creativity with that as well, because I had to develop programs and facilitate different life skill programs. This was just something that I just felt like doing, and I jumped both feet in to do it. I started turning recently as well, and my first turn piece was a 7.5-inch deep bowl, very, very thin walls, and it didn't explode in my face, which was fantastic. So I'm not one of those people that just kind of slowly go into something. If I'm going to do it, I kind of jump right in. So, yes?
I just want to point out, guys, that Jennifer does her own turn.
Yes, I've been doing my turning. This year is actually done by Ken Lorenz. He's my neighbor, and he's actually my mentor for turning. So he's been teaching me how to do it. So actually, he was supposed to be over at my house today watching me turn, but again, I'm not much of a waiter, so I actually started myself. So I've been doing what I consider my Fabergé eggs. You can see them on my Facebook page or my Instagram page. Same idea as a Fabergé egg. It's all burnt, all freehand, but it's made out of wood. So, if the kid drops it, it's not going to smash all over the floor. So today I'm also going to do the burning in front of you here. So this is my bowl here. This is the same wood as actually that bowl as well. I've already, at home, I got kind of excited about this bowl, and I actually started it a little bit already. And you've got some 2 eyes in there, a nose, and the bottom lip. And my plans for this, which could change because I have done that with designs before, is that it's going to be a harvest god or a green man. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that at all. Sometimes you see them in gardens. They have them against trees or hidden in the garden. It's kind of an older man's face with like leaves, and it's all kind of mixed with nature. I've done a bowl like this previously. I absolutely loved him. I wanted to do him for a while, and he sold within 4 days. So I didn't have him very long. So I want to be able to make him again. So I'm going to just go ahead and start burning, and I'll talk while I'm burning as well. So one of the safety things I'd like to talk about when it comes to burning is obviously it's a very, very hot tool. And you have to be very careful with that. I'm sure you're all grown men and women, so I'm sure you understand the safety with that. For myself, because I burned for so long, as I'm not sure anybody can see up front, is my finger's a little bit red there, because I burn that's because I hit the door. But this is because I burn all the time. I'm sorry. Here's my red finger. So what happened was I had to develop a glove of my own. It started off with one of my kids' old gloves. I cut off the fingers of their gloves to place on here. Because I'm burning for so long and my hand is so close to the tip, I'll eventually start to get a burn. It won't blister, but it'll be extremely raw skin. So I started to develop different gloves. This is actually a gardening glove that I've cut off all the fingers in the bottom of the glove to protect my fingers. And it's fake leather, but it's thick enough that the heat won't go through the glove. I always suggest someone to do this if they're going to be burning for a long time. Again, it depends on the pen. I started with this. I do burn for a long time, so it does start to burn your hand, but you're pretty far away from the tip. Still, I suggest you have some kind of protection on your hand. Normally as well, if I'm down in my studio, I have a fan right next to me, so it pointed away from me to cause a wind tunnel. This is still a carcinogen. There's smoke you're inhaling. You don't cause too much smoke depending on the wood that you're burning. However, you're still breathing it in, so it's never good to breathe in any kind of smoke. So you want to have a fan here and push it outwards. And a lot of the questions that I get are what kind of wood that I love to burn on. Maple is one of my favorites. Pine is nice. It burns really fast. This is pine here, and you can tell by the different textures and such that there are different heat points in it that it'll burn really easily in some areas and not so easily in others. The tail is actually spruce as well. Yes.
When you made the transition from the first burner, where you used just the one point, then your husband got you the one in your hand for Mother's Day. Was there much of a learning curve for you, having trained yourself with the one point and going over to the one in your hand?
I'm glad you asked that. So this one's a very basic tool, and I'm actually really happy that I did start on this, because what happens is this is very, very basic. It doesn't give me anything. Like, it plugs right into the wall. There's no heat control. There's nothing on it. It takes 5 minutes to heat up, so you have to have a lot of patience. So through using this, I was able to teach myself the skill. I did not depend on my tool whatsoever, and so by using this for about a year, switching to this, it was incredibly easy, because now I've got heat control. It was almost like the lazy way of doing it, because now I have the machine that does it, but I still kind of remain to use the same tip all the time. I brought it, I think it's behind the portrait. I brought one of my tips like this, because I use the same tip all the time. The one that's in there is actually, there's a little porcelain piece that's in there that holds the tip still. Yeah, it broke off because I use it so much. Oh, sorry. I'm pointing in the right direction. So the white tip right there, it's a porcelain piece that holds the tip in place, and I've actually broken that off, and it was in the middle of my really busy season. So my busy season is like May to December, and I had to deal with a very wiggly tip, but you just adapt. Like, this is something that I love doing. It's not a chore for me to do, so when something happens, you just adapt. Like, you can't depend on your tool, you have to depend on the skill in yourself. Sorry, did I?
Oh, you're okay. That's okay.
Okay. So yeah, so then for mainly what I use for tips is this one here, which is actually a shading tool. It's not really meant for lines, but I like it. I can turn it to the side, I can do to the very tip of it, and then I can also pull down. And the pull down motion is something I do commonly, and you'll see me do that, is I call it the paintbrush style. So a lot of times when you see in wood burning is that you'll see very definite lines and very like geometric kind of styles, like the mandalas and so on. This one's what I do, like I can do that as well, but I tend to do the more softer paintbrush style. So it's my unique kind of style of art, and I use a lot of times this tip here. So I'm just going to turn it on. I currently have it set to a 7. It goes up to 10. 10 is really high. You'll see the difference. So I remembered this time. There we go. So that's on a 7, and you can't really see. Yeah, you can't really see any redness. So I'm going to turn it up. Now it's on a 10. Yeah, it's lit up. You guys.